The sun bled into the western sky, turning the Arizona plains into a sea of rust and flame. Dust spun in small devils behind 6 men on horseback, their silhouettes long and sharp against the dying light. Each hoofbeat thundered like war drums, and each breath from the horses came in desperate, lathered gasps. These men had outrun lawmen, left a burning general store in their wake, and buried a bank teller beneath shattered glass. They were wolves on the run, but wolves, too, could be hunted. Clem Riker rode at the front, a thick-chested man with a gray beard soaked in sweat and tobacco. His eyes were sharp as broken glass, and they never looked back, not because he wasn't afraid, but because he refused to give fear the pleasure. Behind him, slumped low in his saddle, Finn clung to the reins like a boy trying not to fall off a wild stallion. Blood soaked the side of his shirt. The bullet hadn't killed him outright, but it would if they didn't stop soon. "Damn kids leaking like a busted canteen," muttered Brody, spitting into the wind. "Better him than me," Dill replied, pulling a whiskey bottle from his coat and drinking deep. "Hold your tongues," Clem snapped without turning. "We find shelter before moonrise." The canyon yawned ahead, a jagged maze of red rock and shadows that swallowed the trail whole. The Painted Canyons, locals called it Hell's Sketchbook. Most folks stayed clear. Legends told of screams that echoed long after voices died, of shadows that didn't belong to any living man. Clem didn't put stock in ghost stories, but even he didn't smile as they descended the narrow trail, the cliffs closing in like coffin lids on either side. The cabin appeared like a mirage, tucked beneath a wind-carved overhang. Slumped and crooked, it leaned as though too tired to stand straight, its roof patched with bark and rusted tin. Its wood was weathered silver, bones without flesh. A broken rocking chair swayed on the porch though no wind stirred. Something about it made even the horses hesitate. "Looks like death lives here," muttered Preacher Lyle, his voice low and scratchy. His eyes, wide and pale, flicked toward the cabin like he saw something no one else did. "You feel that? The air's thick with judgment." "Shut it," Clem growled, dismounting. "It's wood and nails. That's all. Better ghosts than marshals." They dragged Finn inside, laying him on a dusty cot in the corner. The air inside was still and dry, filled with the scent of old ash and mouse droppings. Shafts of dying light filtered through the slats, carving the room into streaks of gold and shadow. On the walls, strange carvings curled like spiderwebs, symbols too crude to name, etched with knives and hate. Somebody tried real hard to keep something in or out, Dill muttered, running a hand over the markings. Brody kicked over a broken chair, revealing a wooden trapdoor covered with years of dust and cobweb. It was nailed shut with iron spikes. "Well, hell," he said, grinning despite himself. "Ain't that curious?" "No one opens that," Clem said quickly. "We need rest, not buried trouble." Finn moaned. The blood had slowed, but his skin was going pale. Lyle knelt beside him and pulled a leather Bible from his coat, murmuring verses as if the boy were already in a grave. The others smoked and sat in silence, surrounded by wood that groaned like it remembered being trees. As twilight settled, the wind began to rise, brushing against the cabin like fingers on skin. It whispered through the cracks, carried grit into their boots, and made the lantern flame flicker as if it, too, was frightened. "How long we staying?" Howie asked, sharpening a knife that had seen more flesh than bark. "Till dawn," Clem said. "Maybe longer if the kid makes it." They ate cold beans and stale bread, the kind of meal that turned teeth to stone. No one spoke much, not after the fire cracked and revealed, in its brief flare, what looked like a handprint on the wall. Small, too small. Finn stirred in his sleep, his voice dry and broken. "I heard someone crying," he mumbled. "A girl." Dill snorted. "You're dreaming, boy." La wasn't so sure. He stared at the wall where the sound had come from, and didn't blink. The fire died low. One by one, they drifted to uneasy sleep, each with a gun close, and thoughts closer still. Outside, the wind shifted. It stopped howling and became still, unnaturally so. Silence heavier than sound. Then, from inside the walls, came a knock. Soft, deliberate. like a child asking to come out and play. The men shot upright. Clem was first to draw, eyes scanning the dark. Brody and Howie cursed under their breath. Dill froze, his whiskey bottle halfway to his lips. You heard that? Finn whimpered, eyes wide. Lyle stood slowly. Reckon the walls want to speak. No one moves, Clem hissed. Stay still. But the knock came again. Louder. Closer. A rhythm. 3 taps, pause, 3 more. Dill rose, shaking. I don't like this. I don't like it one damn bit. The trapdoor groaned. Not from pressure. From within. Christ almighty, Lyle whispered, holding his Bible tight against his chest. We shouldn't be here. No one spoke. Even Clem had gone still, his fingers clenching the grip of his pistol like it might vanish from his hand. Sweat rolled down their faces, though the air was cold now, ice settling in their lungs. The knock came once more, softer this time. Then a giggle. High-pitched. Faint. Not near the door. From behind the wall. Right behind Finn's cot. He screamed. The cot jumped. And all hell broke loose. The knock came again. 3 dull taps, like bone on wood. Every man in the room froze, their eyes darting toward the wall behind Finn's cot. The boy whimpered, clutching his side as sweat slicked his brow. Someone's out there, he croaked, voice thin as thread. There's no one out there, Clem growled, though he didn't sound sure. He stood with his back to the wall, pistol raised, breathing shallow. Maybe rats, Brody muttered, lighting a cigarette with a trembling hand. That wasn't no rat, said Dill. Rats don't knock polite. Wind, Clem snapped. Cabin like this? Hell, it's full of holes. Timber creaks. Boards shift. Ain't no mystery. But no one moved. The silence that followed was too still, too sharp. The kind of silence that made a man feel like something was listening. Outside, the wind had stopped again. No owls. No coyotes. Not even the groan of the canyon. Preacher Lyle stood in the corner, swaying ever so slightly, his eyes half-lidded like a man in trance. The dead never forget, he murmured. Not when they're buried in anger. Brody scoffed. You need to shut your damn mouth before I sew it closed. Let him talk, Finn whispered. Maybe he's right. Dill's boots scraped across the floor as he stood. Don't start with that spook talk, preacher. This place is just old. Old wood makes noise. That's it. Then check the wall, preacher said, voice grave. Put your ear to it. Tell me it's just wind. No one moved. Finn groaned again, trying to sit up. Clem pushed him back down. Stay put. You're no good to me dead. The fire snapped, sending shadows flailing across the room. Clem turned toward it and froze. A square tile in the floor had shifted slightly, barely noticeable, but it wasn't like that before. What's that? Howie asked. Clem knelt, brushing away soot and dirt. Beneath the tile was a shallow space, hollowed out by time and mice. Inside lay something scorched, warped by fire. A journal, half-burned, pages curled and blackened like dead leaves. He opened it slowly. Ink bled across the parchment, but some words were still legible. Dates, 1884, 1885. A woman's handwriting. Clean, careful. Brody leaned in. What's it say? Clem read aloud, his voice tight. They came at dusk. Said they needed food and water. My husband let them in. 3 men. Drunk. Dirty. I hid the children beneath the bed. He flipped the page. The bottom corner had melted away. Screams wouldn't stop. Blood on the fireplace. They killed them all. Except Rosie. She was small, fast. I told her to go in the wall. Told her to hide and not come out. Preacher Lyle let out a breath, slow and reverent. The sins of men echo in wood. Finn's lips trembled. Rosie. Clem read further, skipping burned lines. They looked for her. Tore up the floorboards. I screamed she was dead, but they didn't believe. They sealed the trapdoor. Said they'd come back. The next page was brittle. Clem turned it carefully. She's still here. I hear her at night. Whispering. Watching. Waiting. The name was scrawled across the next line in bold, jagged ink. The Watcher. The fire popped loudly, and Dill cursed, stumbling back. This is horseshit. Some loony settler's bedtime story. Preacher Lyle reached out, touching the page gently. This was their grave, and we made camp on top of it. Asterisk enough, asterisk, Clem barked. He slammed the journal shut and tossed it to the floor. No more tales. We're not here for ghost stories. We wait till morning, and we ride. Nothing else. But the room didn't relax. If anything, it grew tighter, the air thick with something unspoken. Brody turned away from the fire and scanned the corners of the cabin. You think it's real? Finn asked quietly. No, Clem said, but his hand hadn't left his pistol. Howie stepped closer to the cot. Or maybe you're making it real. You've been twitching ever since we got here. Maybe you're knocking, trying to scare us off. Think we'll leave, and you'll ride off with the loot. You're crazy, Finn whispered. I'm half dead. Dill moved in too. Could be he's playing us. Wants us jumpy. I swear. Brody snapped, grabbing Finn by the collar. I say we check him. See if he's got any tricks on him. Some little hammer or rock. Let him go, Clem warned. Brody didn't. So Clem drew his gun and pointed it straight at Brody's head. I said, asterisk, let him go, asterisk. 10 seconds passed. Brody's lip curled. Then he shoved Finn back down and stepped away. We're losing our minds. We are, said Dill. And it ain't just the kid's fault. It's this place. This damn cabin. Like it's watching. Preacher Lyle smiled without humor. 'Cause it is. Another gust of wind moaned through the cracks. The lantern flickered again. But this time, the flame bent sideways, pulled toward the wall like breath being drawn. Finn stared, eyes wide. I think she's still there, he whispered. Rosie. In the wall. Clem paced the floor. I don't care if it's ghosts, rats, or stories. We sit tight. We hold our ground. We're not being run off by wind and memories. But what if they ain't memories? Finn said. What if they're waiting for something? The fire hissed and died. The room went black. No one moved. No one breathed. Then, from behind the wall, came a soft humming. A child's voice. Low. Tuneless. A lullaby with no words. The melody twisted its way around the room, sinking into the wood, into their skin, into the backs of their teeth. It didn't come from one place. It came from everywhere. The darkness wasn't just the absence of light now. It felt alive. Brody dropped his cigarette. It hit the floor with a hiss, but there was no flame left to light it. Light the lamp, Dill rasped. No one moved. The humming grew louder, and in the cot, Finn whispered what they were all thinking. She never left. The stars hung low over the painted canyons, flickering like dying coals in a hearth long left untended. A storm gathered in the distance, thunder grumbling behind black hills, creeping westward like judgment on slow legs. High above the canyon floor, a solitary figure stood at the ridge, unmoving, just a long coat rippling in the wind, the brim of a weather-worn hat casting her eyes into shadow. Adelaide Boone watched the crooked cabin below with the patience of a hunter and the weight of memory pressing hard against her chest. Her black mule shifted behind her, silent but alert. She didn't glance back. She'd followed the trail this far, and now she saw it. Hoofprints worn deep, blood on the rocks, and the unmistakable stink of desperate men. She knew Clem Riker's trail like she knew the scars on her own hands. In the nearest town, the bank had been gutted, cash drawers ripped open. A clerk shot through the chest and bled across the tiles. The law wouldn't reach this deep for another day, maybe two. But Adelaide didn't wait on law. She never had. What she hunted wasn't just justice. She had been younger then, 46 and unprepared, when the men came riding through. 3 of them, rough hands and wild eyes. Her husband Samuel had tried to keep them calm, offered them food and coin. They took the food, shot him through the heart. Her daughter Rosie, 10 years old, red ribbons in her braids, ran into the woods before Adelaide could stop her. She had screamed her name until her throat bled. No one ever found a body, just a tiny shoe in the brush, and drag marks leading toward the canyons. That had been 10 years ago. 10 long years of dreams and ghosts. The cabin below was where it ended. Adelaide reached into the saddlebag and pulled out a weathered rifle, the barrel clean. the wood dark with use. Beside it, a knife wrapped in old handkerchief cloth. She checked the chamber just once, then slung it over her shoulder and began the descent, her boots careful on the narrow trail. Her breath was steady, though her heart stirred with something colder than rage, something deeper. She reached a flat rock halfway down and paused. From here, the cabin looked skeletal, its roof sagged, its windows like empty eyes, watching her approach. It hadn't been built by ranchers. This was a settler's shell, thrown up quick, forgotten quicker. But Adelaide knew it. The turn of the wood, the shape of the porch. She had passed it once with Samuel and Rosie, on their way to trade. He'd called it the old ghost house. She had laughed back then. Now her fingers curled around the rifle's grip. A flash of lightning arced in the far sky, lighting the canyon like a struck match. For just a second, she thought she saw something move in the upper window. Something pale, standing still, watching. She pressed on. Half buried beneath sand and scrub near the cabin steps, she saw the prints, heavy boots, 6 men. Blood, too, darker than rust now. Adelaide crouched, touched the dry trail, and knew one of them was hurt. That meant they'd sleep longer. Weaker, less guarded. She stepped onto the porch, the boards creaking under her weight. The rocking chair moved ever so slightly in the breeze, though she felt no wind. Her hand hovered over the doorknob, then paused. Once, Rosie had drawn on this door in chalk, flowers and stars. She'd hummed as she did it. Adelaide had scolded her for wasting chalk. The memory struck like a slap. She closed her eyes and took a breath. This place wasn't just a hideout. It was a grave. The door was unlocked. Of course it was. Outlaws didn't think walls could betray them. She didn't open it yet. Instead, she looked to the left wall, the one with carvings. Faint symbols, jagged lines. A child's initials in one corner, R.B. Her throat tightened. Another flash of lightning, and thunder followed, closer this time. Rain was coming. Adelaide tilted her head, listening. Inside, silence. Not even the sound of sleep. But the air felt crowded. She stepped back from the door, just enough to feel the whole cabin before her, not as a building, but as a living thing. The timber groaned softly, and she imagined breath behind the walls, the low hum of something alive. She didn't believe in ghosts. She never had. But she believed in memory. And memory, she'd learned, had its own kind of hunger. Behind her, the storm cracked open, rain splattering the canyon in thick sheets. She pulled her coat tighter and turned to the door once more. "You took my husband," she whispered, not loud, not angry. Just truth carried on the wind. "You took my girl." She stared at the wood, at the walls that might be hiding more than men. "Let's see if you boys believe in ghosts." Brody hadn't slept. His boots never left his feet. His gun never left his hand. He sat with his back to the wall, eyes fixed on the window like something out there might move if he blinked. The others snored or tossed in uneasy sleep, but Brody stayed rigid, jaw clenched tight, teeth grinding beneath the 2-day beard. Then it happened. Movement. Just outside the cabin, in the rain-washed dark, something passed the window. Small, pale, a figure in white. He froze. It drifted, asterisk floated asterisk, just beyond the cracked glass. Head tilted at an unnatural angle, hair dark and wet, hanging like seaweed across its face. Brody shot to his feet, chair clattering behind him. "She's here," he hissed, pointing his gun at the empty pane. "I saw her." The others jolted awake, startled, weapons half drawn. "Saw who?" Howie snapped, wiping sleep from his eyes. "There was a girl," Brody said. "White dress. Looked right at me." Clem stared at him hard. "You been hitting the bottle again?" She walked past the goddamn window, Clem. Preacher Lyle stood slowly from the far corner, one hand clutched around his Bible, the other shaking as he pointed toward the wall. "She walks when judgment's close." "Stop it," Clem growled. "All of you, get your heads right." But it was too late. The room had already turned. Howie started pacing. "We've been here too long. The air's wrong. We need to ride out before the sun's up." Dill kicked his blanket away and stood up, unsteady. "I ain't waiting. I'm gonna take a piss. Then I'm packing my horse." Clem raised a hand. No one's leaving this cabin alone. Dill laughed bitterly. I'd rather take my chances with coyotes than ghosts and holy men. He grabbed a lantern and stepped outside. The door creaked shut behind him, and the storm swallowed the sound. The wind howled down the canyon like a scream torn in two. They waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then 20. No sign of Dill. Brody was the first to speak. He's dead. You don't know that. Clem snapped. Then where is he? Lyle stepped forward, voice low. The Lord taketh what sin refuses to confess. Shut up, Clem shouted. But the walls didn't. They creaked louder now, shifting in rhythm with the rain. The air felt heavier, sour like wet copper. Finn whimpered on the cot, eyes red-rimmed. He's not coming back. When the sun finally rose, they found him. The wall near the fireplace had buckled slightly, a panel ajar. Behind it, in a cavity barely wide enough for a man's body, Dill's corpse slumped sideways, his arms pinned to his chest, mouth stuffed full of old cloth. His eyes were wide, with splinters pressed deep into his skin like claws. Clem was the one to pull him out. No one offered help. Across the inside of the wall, scratched into the timber with ragged fingernails, were 3 words. She's watching. Finn broke then. Started sobbing. Why us? Why us? We didn't kill her. Brody leaned in, face pale. But we rode with men who did. She ain't after ghosts, Howie said. She's after blood. The door burst open. They all turned at once, guns rising too late. Adelaide Boone stood in the doorway, soaked from rain, long coat dark with water, her rifle steady, and aimed straight at Clem's chest. Morning, boys, she said. Don't move. Her voice was calm, level, with an iron edge that made even Brody lower his aim an inch. Clem squinted. You, Adelaide Boone, she said. You remember. He did. He saw it then. The lines on her face, the burn of sorrow in her eyes, the slow fury beneath the surface. He remembered the man they left dead in the grass, the girl who ran screaming. You're supposed to be gone, she finished. Funny thing. So was Rosie. The silence cracked. You've been following us? Brody asked. She ignored him. From her coat she pulled an old, torn wanted poster. Clem Riker. Brody Shaw. Howie King. Faces younger, but unmistakable. You were boys then, she said. Boys with fire in your bellies and rot in your hearts. Wasn't me, Howie muttered. I didn't touch nobody. You stood and watched, she said. That's enough. Preacher Lyle stepped forward, arms open to the sky. She walks among us now, he whispered. The girl in white. She forgives the mother, but not the men. The cabin moaned, deep and low. The trapdoor in the floor jumped slightly, just once, like something thumped from underneath. Then the back door slammed shut with a violent bang. No wind. No hands. Adelaide didn't flinch. Brody dropped his gun. Let me leave, he said. I didn't hurt no one. I'll run. You'll never see me again. Adelaide didn't lower her rifle. You already ran, she said. 10 years ago. Left a child in the woods to die. She didn't die. Lyle shouted suddenly, face lit with frenzy. She hid in the walls. She learned the dark. She was fed by hatred. Finn clutched the edge of the cot, shaking. Please. She's still here. Lyle whispered. She's in the cracks. The wood remembers. Clem stepped forward, hands raised. What do you want, Adelaide? Truth, she said. And answers. Her eyes scanned the room, then rested on the wall where Dill had been found. She's watching us, she whispered. Behind the wall, something scraped, a long, dragging sound, like fingers across bark. And then, from deep beneath the floor, came the sound of a child's voice, whispering and laughing. Finn ran. He didn't wait for a signal, didn't glance at the others, just lunged for the front door like a drowning man desperate for air. Rain lashed outside, the wind screaming through the canyons, but he never made it past the threshold. The crack of Clem's revolver split the air, and the boy dropped like a sack of flour, a red bloom unfurling beneath him. For a second, no one moved. Time hung on the recoil. Brody's scream shattered it. You killed him. He lunged, wild and sudden, tackling Clem into the table. Wood splintered, lanterns clattered. The rifle in Adelaide's hand snapped up, train between them, but they were already in a tangled mess of fists and boots. Clem struck first, hard, pistol whipping Brody across the temple. Blood sprayed the wall. Stop it, Adelaide barked, stepping forward. But Clem wasn't listening. He was beyond reason now, snarling as he raised his gun again. Brody swung blindly, caught him in the ribs, and both men went down in a heap, choking on fury and fear. Adelaide turned from the fight, eyes drawn to the floor. The trapdoor had shifted again, just slightly, enough to whisper its presence. She stepped forward, heart pounding. Her boots creaked on the warped boards. The storm outside had become a dull roar, a storm of sound in the distance, like the dead calling each other home. She dropped to her knees. The nails were old, rusted, hands trembling. She dug her knife beneath the boards and pried. The trapdoor lifted with a groan, revealing a crawlspace black as the mouth of a cave. A rush of cold air rose to meet her, and with it came the unmistakable scent of old earth, mold, and something else, something softer. Blankets. She lowered the lantern in. Toys, cracked and sun-bleached, sat scattered across the dirt floor, buttons, marbles, a wooden horse missing a leg, torn fabric, bones. And then she saw the corner, lined with tattered quilts and the remains of a child's world. Etched into the walls were drawings, crude, childlike, a family, a little girl, a tall man with a hat, a red ribbon drawn over and over again. Adelaide's voice trembled. Rosie. Behind her. The fight had stopped. Clem stood, bleeding from the lip, gun shaking in his hand. I remember this place now, he said hoarsely. We came through here. I was just a kid. You were there, Adelaide said without turning. You stood in that room while they tore my life apart. Clem's jaw worked, but he said nothing. Adelaide climbed down. The dirt floor gave softly under her boots. Every wall felt close. The lantern flickered. Something moved behind the quilts. She froze. Then slowly, she pulled the blanket aside. A figure crouched there, back pressed to the wall. Skin pale, almost gray. Eyes too wide, reflecting the lantern's light like an animal's. Hair long, tangled with twigs and dust. Bare feet, scraped knees. Arms hugged to her chest. She didn't speak. She only watched. Adelaide's voice cracked. Rosie. The girl blinked. Adelaide lowered the lantern. It's me, she said. Mama. She reached out, hand trembling. The girl flinched, but didn't retreat. Her breath was shallow, animal-fast, like she hadn't used words in years. Her fingers flexed like claws. Dirt packed beneath her nails. Adelaide knelt slowly, tears trailing down her cheeks. You made it, she whispered. You stayed alive. The girl said nothing. She leaned forward, touched Adelaide's outstretched fingers, then withdrew, curling tighter into herself. A sound above, boots creaking. Adelaide looked up. Clem stood at the edge of the trapdoor, peering in. She was here the whole time, he muttered. In the damn walls. She survived what you helped begin. I didn't know what they'd do. I was just... He stopped. Even he didn't believe it. He looked at the girl again. The one with hollow cheeks and silent eyes. She's not even human anymore, he said. That thing's just what's left. Adelaide rose slowly, rifle in hand. You came back to finish what you started. Clem stepped back. I didn't kill her. But you didn't stop them either. His hand twitched. The revolver moved. Adelaide didn't hesitate. One shot rang through the cabin. Clem dropped. No curse. No scream. Just silence. Adelaide stood above him, smoke curling from a rifle. Above, thunder rolled. Below, Rosie hadn't moved. She only stared. Morning came hard and gray, light sifting through broken shutters like the breath of something old and tired. Smoke clung to the rafters. Blood dried in dark spatters on the floor. For men lay dead. Clem crumpled near the trapdoor, Finn by the front steps. Brody and Dill claimed in different corners of the night. Only Preacher Lyle remained, rocking silently by the fireplace, his Bible open on his knees. but his eyes seeing something far beyond these walls. Adelaide stood in the doorway, rifle in hand, coat heavy with rain. Her face, hard-lined and hollowed by the weight of everything she'd found, and everything she couldn't reclaim, caught the last of the cabin's shadow before the sun broke clean across the canyon ridge. She looked once more toward the floorboards, to the hidden place beneath the trapdoor where she'd left a bundle of food, matches, candles, a stitched blanket from her saddlebag. Things meant to say what words never could. There were no goodbyes fit for this kind of sorrow. Some love lived longer than language. Behind her, the preacher's murmurs turned to a hymn, soft and broken, a hymn for the dead or the damned. She walked over and laid a hand on his shoulder. "You're free to go," she said gently. He blinked, then nodded, the lines of scripture still tumbling from his lips like rainwater down stone. Adelaide stepped back, and he rose unsteadily, the Bible still in his grip, boots scuffing through dust and blood as he passed through the open door. He didn't look back. He vanished into the desert like a ghost chasing his own repentance. Adelaide waited until the wind settled. Then she knelt. Her hand touched the wall, the lowest slat, near where the journal had been hidden. A moment passed, and then from the shadows behind the wood, small fingers reached out, thin, dirt-caked, trembling, but real, alive. She caught them gently, her breath breaking in her chest. Rosie didn't speak. She hadn't all night. But this silent reaching, it said enough. Adelaide pressed her forehead to the wall. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for not being here, for not finding you sooner, for the world being what it is." The fingers curled tighter. Adelaide lingered as long as she dared. When she finally let go, Rosie didn't try to hold on. She slipped back into the darkness, without a sound, like mist retreating before the sun. Adelaide stood. Her hands shook as she shouldered her rifle and stepped outside. The wind was rising over the ridge, dry and golden now, the storm having passed. Sunlight stretched long across the canyon floor, igniting the brush and stone with the color of old coins. Her mule waited beneath the twisted juniper, as still and patient as always. She climbed into the saddle with the weariness of a woman who had carried grief longer than her own name. She looked back only once. The cabin stood quiet, still, its bones soaked in old sorrow, its walls still breathing the secrets they'd held for a decade. But something had shifted. The air felt less heavy now, the ghosts quieter. Adelaide turned the mule toward the east, toward the morning. She didn't know where she was headed, maybe nowhere in particular, maybe just away from the blood. But in her chest, something had settled. Not peace, exactly. Something harder, something honest. Behind her, the wind caught on the cabin's roof, curling through broken beams. And if someone had stood there, in the canyon shadow, listening close, they might have heard it. A soft hum. High, sweet, childlike. The kind of sound a mother might hum when rocking a baby to sleep. They say the canyon still hums at night. That sometimes, when the moon is thin and the winds are low, a girl's voice sings behind the walls of the old cabin. And that justice, like a mother's love, never really dies. It just waits, quiet, patient, behind the wood.